Okay, Madison, how you doing? Thank you so much for including uh, your brief analysis and description of the story that you're using. So we've got your fonts up here, what your sketch is up here. Now, I think one of the things that I'm seeing here is there's not a whole lot of variety here in what you're offering as a solution for the typeface that best represents Dracula. Now, we know a few things about Dracula. We know that it took place in the late 1800s. We know it's a horror story, and we know it has to do with vampires and some occult. So what we have to do is we have to look at this and say, are these ideas being translated here through the typeface? And right now, the one thing I'm not seeing a lot of variety in the examples that you're offering your client. So basically, this first example and the second example are identical, other than the fact that the second one has a thicker stroke. They're both all cap, both sans serif. So you're not really giving a whole lot of variety. Now, further, you haven't really described in detail exactly what the connection is between sans serif all cap typeface and the subject matter and time and historicism associated with the subject matter of your choice, right? So what do we know about Dracula? We know that it took place in the late 1800s, the story, right? We know it's about a vampire, about the occult, about it's a horror story. It has to do basically a little bit with character study, specifically evil versus good. So we're looking at all these things now. One thing I'm seeing is, and I haven't really seen in your examples or in your description, is the connection between the typefaces that you've drawn out and that actual subject matter. I think one of the most important things in this entire set of instructions is this, number 3 right here specifically, this sentence that I have highlighted. This is talking about your type examples. Do they communicate the nature and tone of the story as well as the place and time in which it occurs? And I'm not seeing that here. I'm not seeing necessarily any connections here to to horror, or specifically the historicism associated. You're using a sans serif typefaces, which for all intents and purposes hadn't been invented by the time that Dracula, and I shouldn't say they have, they were not used at all during the time this story was published. So is there historical relevance there? The last example, I think you're starting to develop this conceptual this conceptual adherence to the story itself, because you've got the blood. So in essence, I think that this is probably the most successful of the 3. However, I don't feel this is going to provide very much versatility. You can use it for the title of the book, but really that's it. So, can it be used for other promotional materials? And I think that's another important thing. Is it appropriate for promotional materials for an upcoming production and publication of the selection of the story? Do you see what I'm saying? So I would say I would love to see 3 more examples. More specifically, I'd like to see you really develop a good approach and really explain, okay, this first example is relevant and symbolizes Dracula to a high degree because, and then go into the reasons and tell us why you've got these connections between Dracula and the typeface that you've rendered out in your sketches. A really great thing to do is jump over and do some research here. So we've got a lot of different examples here, and a lot of them have to do with blackface typeface. A lot of them have to do with like these kind of decorative typefaces, almost having some sharp edges to indicate fangs. So really do a lot of visual research to see what's going on. Most of these are in blackface, as we can see here, or in a serif typeface. So really, or decorative typeface too. I think that one right there is quite interesting. So really try to develop this typeface to a high degree, so that it specifically addresses the communicative nature and tone of the story and how that is translated over to the sketches, as well as the place and time in which the story occurred. So we want to take historicism into account here. Okay. All right. So yes, I would love to see three different sketches more adhering to those parameters. All right. Good job. Any questions at all? Please let me know. Thank you.